So here we go. Can I make it a bit bigger? Okay, I hope you can all see the first slide here. Great, so far so good. So welcome, my name is Elke Briers, and I work for the King Bodwij Foundation, and I manage, among other things, the Business Partnership Facility. And the next slide, no, oh, here we go. So I will start with a summary, just to give you a high-level overview of what the call is all about. So in general, with the Business Partnership Facility, we want to give financial support to the private sector to get them more involved in contributing to the SDGs in developing countries. So with this call, we specifically target companies, business initiatives. With the foundation in general, we mainly support nonprofits. So if you're looking for a nonprofit, for financial support for a nonprofit initiative, please check out the website as well. So what do we support with Business Partnership Facility? We support entrepreneurial initiatives contributing to at least one SDG. We are looking for partnerships consisting of at least one business entity. The projects that you ask support for has to be in line with the core business of the business partner or business partners involved. The project has to take place in one of the countries that are eligible for this call. We have 26 African countries and Palestine that are currently eligible to ask for support. There is no sector target or whatever, but we do have three priority themes. I will come back to the different items more in detail on the next slide. So this is in general the kind of projects that we are looking for. And how does it work, the BPF support? You can get a non-refundable matching grant between 50,000 and 200,000 euros. For the last 5 years, we had almost continuous call for projects. So this is the 9th and the final round of applications. The BPF is initiated and is funded by the DGD, by the Belgian Development Corporation, and the operational management is entrusted to the KBF, to the King Bodwij Foundation. So currently the 9th and the final call for projects is online. You can submit your project until the 5th of September. Then we will go through the selection process, and the meeting of the selection committee is mid-December 2023. So to zoom in more in detail about the kind of projects that we are targeting with this call. So as I mentioned before, it has to be an entrepreneurial business initiative that contributes to at least one SDG in developing countries. The three priority themes are climate, environment, and biodiversity, gender and female entrepreneurship, and decent work and social protection. So if it doesn't fit one of these three criteria, you are not eligible anymore for a BPF grant. When we talk about the projects that got support in the past, you will notice that some projects don't fit these priority teams or don't fit one of the eligible countries. And that's because we've been running this mission already for the 9th time, and the selection criteria have slightly changed among the roads. But at this moment, we do have these three priority teams, so please check it out up front. It has to be a profitable business initiative or on its way to become profitable. So it has to generate its own revenues and has to become profitable in the near future. We are looking for partnerships that bring together different actors from the private sector, research institutes, nonprofits, academia, organizations from the north, from the south. So it can also be a South-South partnership. All combinations are possible for this call. Partners can be Belgian, European, international, that is all eligible for the BBF grant. But it's important that the project is really in line with the core business of the business partner or business partners involved. And the maximum is 3 years, a 3-year project. Although, of course, we are hoping that the company will last much longer than just for these 3 years. Here you can see the overview of the 27 eligible countries. We have 26 African countries and Palestine. So the project must take place in one of these countries. It's possible that the partners are located in another country. It's also possible that you target more than one country on the list with the call, but with the BPF grant, it has to go to one of these countries. If we talk about the selection criteria, then in the application you must show that that you have both a social or environmental impact and that your project is economically viable. In general, over the presentation, I will talk about social impact, but please keep in mind that it's social and environmental, but it's sometimes easier to stick to the social impacts. But environmental impact is, of course, one of the SDGs as well, so eligible for the BPF goal. So social impact, what do we have in mind? It can be the number of full-time jobs that is created. That can be an impact of the project, an improved average income for low-income families, that certain goods or services become available for low-income families. Inclusion and economic progress of low-income women and youth, a positive impact on the environment by saving resources, by helping the biodiversity, by recycling resources and things like that. So it's all about inclusive development. Again, the 3 priority themes: climate, environment, and biodiversity, gender and female entrepreneurship, and decent work and social protection. So that's one pillar that is very important, the social and environmental impact. Equally important is that you show us that the project is economically viable, that the company, that the project can become self-sustainable, that you don't need future support, grant subsidies, that you will have enough revenues to support future growth, that you show a competitive financial performance, and that you can show signs of scalability and replicability. So social and economic, the 2 parameters that we look for. Here you have an idea of the timeline for this 9th call. So you can apply, you can submit your application until the 5th of September 2023. After that, we will start the eligibility and the pre-selection that is done by the KBF. That will take about a month, as the call is very popular and we get a lot of applications. After that, we will start the ESG screening. I will go into detail on one of the next slides what the ESG screening is all about. And at the same time, all the information is given to an independent jury who will study the projects as well. They will meet in the first part of December, and afterwards we will announce their final decision. So as I told you before, this is the 9th selection rounds. We had 8 before, over a period of 5 years, and this is the final call for projects. So then you won't be able to submit a project anymore. to zoom into the eligibility and the selection criteria. So, of course, you have to respect the deadline of the call. After the 5th of September, we cannot accept your project anymore. The application must be done online via the platform. When you go to the website, it's clear where you can submit the project. And the application has to be fully in English, French, or Dutch. You have to complete all questions and definitely add all annexes that we ask for. If you don't add all annexes, we will not even look into the details of your project. So it's really important to have a complete application. We will also check that there is a partnership with at least one for-profit partner. So an NGO on its own or a research institute cannot apply. It has to be in a partnership with a for-profit partner. The geographic scope we will check to see if you're eligible, if the budget that you request is between 50,000 and 200,000 euros. And we will also check the matching fund, the co-funding. I will zoom into the matching fund later on, as this is really a crucial parameter as well. So for all the eligible projects, we will check the selection criteria, and then we will really zoom into the application, to all the answers that you've given on the questions. And then we check project management, economic viability, social and environmental impact, and we will check the priority teams. So do you manage your project in an efficient way? Is the necessary experience and capacity present in the partnership? Is the project, is a company on its way to become self-sustainable? Will the grant be additional? So that the additionality criteria is also important. Can the project take place without the BPF support as well, or is it really necessary for you to have this grant? We will check the innovative aspect, if the project is reproducible and scalable. We will also check if there is an impact on the sector or on the market. The development effects, and of course the priority teams. So first eligibility check, and later on the selection criteria check. Once you've passed the pre-selection, then we will give the information to the independent jury, but we will also check the ESG screening for all the for-profit organizations that are present in the partnership. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance screening. So these are the three main topics that will be screened. This screening is done by an independent organization, SIDEX. It's an online screening. They don't come to visit your facility. So it's all online, and the scores that you will get, the results of this ESG screening, is shared with the jury members. Just to be completely transparent with you, it's not that we only support the best in class what this ESG screening is concerned. So with the grant, we also want to give you the opportunity to make progress what ESG is concerned. So it's not that you only can get the grant if you have the best scoring in this ESG. It is, however, extremely important that you participate in the ESG screening. So non-disclosure of information, if you don't participate, we cannot give you a BPF grant. This is not just an additional burden for you, I would say. It's also that it's very relevant, and you can share this information with other stakeholders as well. As this is an independent screening, it's also interesting for other supplier customers in your network. And important to mention is that we fully pay for the screening, so there are no costs for you involved. I will just take a sip before I continue. So I mentioned before that BPF, it's a matching grant. You can request between 50,000 and 200,000 euros, but the matching part, the co-funding part, is often not in line with our expectations. So I will dedicate some time and some attention to this matching fund, to this co-funding part. So the part of BPF can only be up to 50% of the total investment necessary to perform the project. The other half of the project budget must come from the for-profit partner or partners involved in the project. And this is what we call the matching fund, the co-funding. The budget, so this co-funding, this matching part, must be contributed as a cash contribution. So no valuation of pre-existing assets, no in-kind donations, no other grants or subsidies. So this is important as we see many applications that are not in line with this. The co-financing can be provided by different companies together. So if you have 2 or 3 for-profit partners working together, all companies can contribute part of the matching funding. Loans can be considered as part of the co-financing. So it really has to be a cash injection, an investment in the project, and not just a donation, not just a grant. So this is very important. Expenses made until 3 months before the submission deadline can count for matching funding as well. So all major expenses between the beginning of July and beginning of June and beginning of September can be seen as matching funding. Sometimes you already have to order machinery and you want to pay part of that machinery up front, and then that part can also count for matching funding. So between 50,000 and 200,000 euros. In total, we had a budget of 12 million euros for the business partnership facility over 5 years. And there is 1.5 million euros left for this 9th selection round. So that means that depending on the amount that is requested, we can support between 8 and 30 beneficiary projects for this round. On top of the grant, on top of the 50,000 to 200,000 euros, you can also request for advisory support through the business partnership facility. So you can request certain consultants, expert on certain topics, to help you if you encounter a bottleneck during the execution of your project. If you already know upfront what kind of support that you need, you can already fill it in the application, but it's also perfectly fine that once you get selected and after a couple of months you encounter a problem and you can use these consulting days, you can contact us and request for this technical assistance, to call it like that. We can pay up to 7 mandates of technical assistance per year that the project gets support. We will finance the consultant's fees. All other expenses has to be paid for by the grantee yourself. So transportation, accommodation, and things like that cannot be paid from BPF budgets. There is a simplified procedure now. So it's easier to apply for this technical assistance compared to how it was before. This is a very important slide, as here we mentioned the website of the business partnership facility, and I cannot emphasize enough, please go and check it out. There is a lot of information available on the procedure, the selection process, but also all information on all grantees. And there is a very detailed list of frequently asked questions. We often get emails with questions that have been question answered in the FAQ session already. So please go and check this out before you contact us, because as I said before, BPF is very popular, and we cannot reply all questions if we keep getting the same questions all over again. The communication on the final selection is also announced on the website of the King Baudouin Foundation. So are the press releases and certain stories. That was the first part of the presentation about the selection criteria, the selection process, the budget, and things like that. Now we'll just give you a brief overview of the projects that got support in the past. This is just to give you a general idea of the projects that got supported. It doesn't mean that your project has to be in line with one of these projects. It also doesn't mean that if you have a very similar project that you cannot get support anymore. So there are no restrictions whatsoever. You will see that we have projects in different sectors, but quite some projects, the biggest part I would say, can be grouped within the food and agriculture sector. So we have some projects related to cocoa, to coffee, to drying of fruits. We have quite some beekeeping projects that we support. We had a project to set up female-run bakeries in the country. Some projects are about certification, some projects are about training, some projects are more hardware, I would say, about infrastructure, about machinery, and things like that. So many possible options here. Some more in the food and agriculture sector. Again, if you want details on the projects or to check out which partners were involved in these projects, you can find all that information on our website. Next to food and agriculture, we also have a couple of projects in the water and sanitation sector to set up a water mini grid powered by renewable energy to improve the access to clean and safe drinking water. And one is really the rural distribution channel of water filters. As you can expect, we also supported quite some projects with renewable energy, solar home kit systems, also small hydropower plants. So this is all possible with BPF support. A couple of projects about recycling resources, going from food waste over plastic, ICT material. So a very wide range of recycling projects as well. And two business services projects. One is to give small entrepreneurs access to bank credits thanks to a bank guarantee, and one is an incubator program in Kinshasa. One private school got support to expand and to upscale their infrastructure. And then we also supported, let's say, a health tech project in Kenya, and one about housing, about construction in Nepal. And these are the two projects in textile. One is in India, a social weaving and knitting workshop, what you can see in the picture as well. And then in Rwanda, the production of eco-friendly sanitary pads. So this was just a high-level overview of the projects that got support in the past. Here, I would like to give you an idea of the popularity of the call. So on average, we receive about 213 projects per application round. And you can see that the last 2 rounds, and especially the last round, was even more popular. We received 377 applications. This is not to tell you that it is not worth applying for BPF, but it's just to clearly consider if your project really fits the selection criteria. If you are in doubt, and then if you think that, oh, maybe it is somehow related to the selection criteria, but not 100%, but I want to try anyway, then I can only show you this graph that a lot of projects apply and a lot of projects are eligible as well. So please check out the selection criteria up front. Most projects request a higher amount, between 150,000 euros and 200,000 euros. So that means for the 1.5 million euros that we have available to give support to this selection round, if most of them if most of the good project request a higher amount, then we can select less projects per selection round. Here in the title is the website again, www.businesspartnershipfacility.be. Please check out the website, and if you cannot find your answer on the website and the frequently asked questions, you can definitely send me an email, and I can reply to your question directly. So this was it for today. What the slides are concerned, that was about half an hour. Well timed. So there is still a lot of time for your questions. I will also check the chat box if someone raised questions there. No. So, or my explanation was very clear, or you're still hesitating to ask your questions. It's just a small group today, so feel free to unmute and to ask your question directly. We can all learn from that.
Hello,
yes, Lina. Hello.
Nice to meet you here today, and thank you for organizing this information session. So I would like to understand a little bit, what do you want to see as a business case for the project? What do you expect? Do you expect a cash flow, or like showing that the project is going to be sustainable, financially sustainable over the time, or explaining you how does the business should look like in the future, a slide deck, or how should we support this? What kind of
Yeah, so there are 2 annexes related to this question. One is the business plan, and then you can indeed talk about your channels, your type of customers, how you will approach these customers, who are your competitors, how will you position your product or your service. So that's really more like a general business plan. You can use, we don't provide templates. That's maybe also important information to give you. You can use what you have. So if you have a business plan in Word or in PowerPoint or whatever format, that's fine for us. Next to the business plan, we also need a financial plan. So where you talk about the capex, the investments that you have to do for the projects, where you talk about the opex, the operational expenses that you have, and definitely also about the revenue forecasts and how this all balances out. So these are the main topics that have to come back into your financial plan. I don't know if that answers your question, or if you were looking for other information.
Yes, this financial plan, do you need it very detailed, or can it be in this format per year during the 3 years of the project, and maybe 2 more?
Per year, that's really the minimum. But we see that most applications are on a monthly basis.
Also for the financial plan?
For the financial plan, yes. If it's a 3-year project, then maybe you can give us more details about the first year, as it might become too uncertain in year 2 and year 3. So maybe for year 2 and year 3, you can give annual forecasts and more details about the first year, for example. But it really depends on your business, on your project as well. So.
Okay. Good. And the investments that had already started this year, only those that started from June on?
The payments after the 5th of June can be seen as matching funding, indeed, yes.
Okay. Okay.
We need a clear cut, otherwise it's hard to compare different organizations. That's why we set these 3 months.
And just maybe a little question before, sorry.
Sure.
For the project beginning, if I see well, so the funding agreement will be signed sometime in January. So we can expect to start the project like in February 24, or and
We
have the
hope
first.
we hope to have all the administration done this year, so in December. And what we did for the previous years, it's that even the first installment was paid end of December, beginning of January. With Christmas and New Year, there might be some delay, but this is really the goal, that we transfer the first installment end of December, beginning of January, so then you can start.
And how do we set this payment schedule?
We come to an agreement together. So based on your application, for some they needed to buy infrastructure, and then they need the biggest chunk of the budget at the beginning, and we can do that. We can pre-finance. For some, it's more for operational expenses, and then it's more spread out over 2 or 3 years. But we will discuss this once your project has been selected. We will make sure that the schedule really fits your needs.
All right, thank you. There are more questions.
You're welcome. I see one more hand. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Elke. Bonjour also.
Hello.
Thank you very much for presentation. It was very clear. My name is Florence Almachi. I work for the NGO Care Belgium, member of the Care International Network. And I'm today with Isabelle Adam from Touton, a French company. My question was more related maybe for the non-profit organization partner. Do you have any clear idea of how the financial tranche are done? So I saw there is the last tranche, which is 10% of the overall budget given at the end of the final report and financial programmatic report. And I don't know if you had any clear idea of how the tranche works here. So maybe the first one.
Like I explained to Lina, that really depends on the needs you have. So if it's a big investment at the beginning, then the biggest tranche, the biggest installment can come at the beginning. If you want to have it spread out over the whole project, that's also fine for us. So we are flexible, and it's really based on the project needs. And I mean, we will do a suggestion, but we are open for discussion. We are open for your suggestions as well, so that it's really a tailor-made proposal, I would say, a tailor-made payment schedule. What is important to know is that the matching fund has to come in line with our installments. So let's say if we pay 100,000 euros as the first installment, then we cannot pay the next installment until 100,000 of matching funding has also been contributed to the project. Okay, so that's basically the only restriction for the payment schedule.
Duly noted. And also I wanted to know if you have any percentage of maximum ICR that might be allocated to the non-profit organization. I don't know how it works. Do you base yourself like Annabelle, or it's a bit different?
No. It's really what is necessary for the project. If I look at the other projects that got support in the past already, then for some project it was the non-profit sector responsible for training, for example. And if that's a big part of the project and of the budget, then it's okay if big chunk of the project budget goes to the nonprofit sector. For others, the nonprofit partner was more for reporting or impact measurement or whatever, and then it was a smaller part of the budget. But we don't have a minimum or a maximum. It's really what you need to have a well-balanced partnership and a well-balanced project.
Okay. Thank you very much for the clarifications.
You're welcome. I saw some text in the chat box. There are no changes compared to the previous goal. That's right. Any other questions that you want to raise? You can unmute yourself or you can type it out. Is there a new one? A non-profit organization operated in Tanzania. We are looking for partnerships with organizations. Yes, this is something that we cannot help you with, unfortunately. So we don't do matchmaking between profits and non-profits. So this is something that you can look for yourself. Is there a breakdown of examples matching funds? I'm not sure if I understand that question. So we see in some projects the matching funding came 100% from one partner. We have other examples where it was like 50 equity from the investors and 50% was an additional loan from a financial institute. So there are many possibilities there, I would say. If this is not an answer to your question, don't hesitate to unmute and to clarify. Can projects in Namibia apply? Now I have to go and look. I don't think that Namibia was one of the eligible countries unless I'm mistaken. Where is my map here? Namibia is not on the list, unfortunately. No. Is it obligatory to have a non-profit partner? That's a question that we often get. In theory, it's not possible. It's not necessary. So it's not absolutely necessary. If there is a for-profit partner, that's the minimum. But we often see that the combination of a profit and a non-profit is a good combination to have both this financial impact and this social or environmental impact. But it's not a must. So if it's a social enterprise in the South and they are really strong in this impact, then it's not necessary to have a non-profit partner.
Hi, I have a quick question? Or,
Sure.
Actually, hi, Isabel Adam, I'm with Touton, and we're considering a project together with CARE Belgium. The first question is in terms of financial flows. So in terms of the match funding, for the time being, I mean, there would be at least one private sector company involved. Potentially two. How does that work in terms of financial flows for the match funding? Do you work with separate project accounts?
We often see that.
Yeah, okay.
But sometimes it is one partner that pays for machinery, for example, and they pay the invoices directly and they can show that they did these payments, and then it's also fine. So for us, there is not a clear must. One project account is often the easiest way for all partners to check what is left and to follow up on the budget. But for us, it's not a must. So if you have other ways to work together, that's also fine for us.
No, that's fine. So there is an element of flexibility to be seen between the project partners.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I had another one, but I've forgotten it, but I might remember in a second, in which case.
Sure.
Cheers.
I don't see other questions in the chat. Is there anybody else who wants to ask a question here? Sure, go ahead.
I remember. No, it was in terms of the consultants you referred to.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's on the website, so just tell me if that's the case in terms of the type of skills they could possibly bring. And I'm thinking, for instance, monitoring and evaluation. Is that one of the skill sets?
Can.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes it's more like a financial expert. Sometimes when companies go into the scaling phase, they need another, not bookkeeping system, but somehow to organize their financial monitoring. Sometimes it's very technical that they have an issue with project quality or whatever, and they need to have an expert coming in. Sometimes they need additional training for staff or for suppliers. So it's a wide range of technical assistance of consulting that can be requested.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Hi there. I jumped in.
Hi.
I was looking for the button to raise my hand, but I couldn't find it.
No worries.
So I'm part of a coffee company based in Ghana, and I wanted to ask if you're applying for a loan as part of the match funding, does this loan need to be finalized and approved before the end of the selection process?
It has to be confirmed, indeed. It can be conditionally confirmed. So if the bank says, okay, we will give you the loan if you get the grant funding, that's also fine for us. But if it's still really in the negotiation phase, then it's too early.
Okay. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So coming back to the question of the consultants, is this a extra line for
Yes.
funding separate from the 200,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some they already have experts in the original application, and it is part of the 200,000 euros. And if it's something that you already know up front that you need, then it's good to have it in your application already. But if there are unexpected events, unexpected bottlenecks, there is still an additional line for these consultants. Yes.
And we can ask extra for that later.
Yes, later when the project is already up and running. So even if it's not in your application, there is this additional budget. Yes.
Okay, very good.
No more questions here. Okay, so thank you all for attending the webinar. I hope it was very useful for you. You will receive the slides and the recording. Also go and check out the website and the frequently asked questions, and don't hesitate to reach out if we can help you with other questions. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Elke. Bye-bye.
Oh, Ahat is there as well. He can also give you some useful information.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.